Okay, so I'm trying to make a quick video because I've had a lot of questions about the process and the need to raise funds and all that stuff. So I'm going to try and cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So I'm just going to give the overview, right? So we had some help originally from somebody who was helping do the edits who I had paid to do, and initially she wasn't even interested because she didn't have the time for this, and she got talked into helping and did a ton of work on this for us, and she's starting to write her own book again, and I could probably get more help from her. I don't think it's the right thing to do to pressure her into that and burn that bridge. So I've looked for other help, right? And met a guy through a reputable website, Reedy. Sorry, my dog is. And that's where editors all post, and it's for people looking for help with, trying to find an editor. They're all reputable people. You can take a look. A lot of them are based out of New York. They've been in the industry 30, 40 years. There's like people from all over the board. And I found an editor through like filtering nonfiction, stuff like that, what they specialize in. He's won a lot of awards, and he met with me on Zoom, which not everybody's willing to do. And talking to him, he said something that was very genuine in the moment of like, I'll do a really good job for you on this. And he knew what it was. He knew how important it was to all of us. But I wish I could share the screen, which I can do in a Zoom call. But I'm at the point where the book, if you send it to a publisher and they take it, they may do their own editing. It depends on the publisher. The whole system's kind of wonky. What I needed help with was, I got this guide here, and that was recommended to me by Bill Vandenbush, and who's a professional author. He came to our first reunion, has a really good military book, and he taking his advice, said, get that guide, do exactly what they tell you to do, because every literary agent has their own system for what they want. It's insane. It really is. Like every publisher, they want something slightly different, but the bread and butter of it is they want what they call a query letter, which is a letter that talks a bit about like introducing yourself and your book and why you reach out to them specifically. And then they want a synopsis, which is like a quick 1 to 2 page, what is this book, what's it covering, what genre. And then they want you to do a book proposal, which can be up to 50 pages. And I've done that too. I've got drafts of all of this. But you have to compare it to other like books. And I'm having a hard time finding books that match up well to this, because I looked. And when you go on Amazon and you try and find like Afghanistan memoirs and stuff, they're there, but they look shitty, to be honest, and they don't look like they sold well, and that's no indication of what this would do. This book has, it could be categorized as psychology, it could be categorized in nonfiction, memoirs, or military. Like, it actually fits. Or even they have a group for social work and being a social worker, and it's absolutely on the back end. It's clinical through the eyes of a clinical social worker. Like, it could be in different places where I think it could sell better. So anyways, it's a lot of work, and you've got to do it right or it gets dumped in the trash, because there's tons of competition. There's no fucking money in it for anybody, but you've got to, I need some help because I've never done that before. So I've got drafts of this. So all that said, I go to this guy, I'm getting quotes. All of them are quoting about the same thing. So here's the thing. To have them read through the book, which I want them to do so they can help write a good pitch for this whole thing, right? You got to know, like, from their eyes. These are people that have been literary agents themselves, have worked for publishers, like they've been in the business. So they have the right set of eyes. And this guy in particular won a lot of awards. So I want him to read through and like help me with, because they want you to submit like 2 chapters. I want him to help me identify, well, what are the 2 best chapters? Do like that objective lens, his lens, that professional lens. Like, what's the two best chapters, and help me write the proposal. He's already referred me to some people for endorsements. Like, he's a good guy. So anyways, $3,000 to get all that help, and then it's $3,500 more dollars to edit the whole goddamn thing. So I'm gonna pay the $500 out of pocket. I asked if he could let me do 2 payments of $250 over the course of a month. I can do that. So I'm pitching in $500 on this too, but I didn't want to raise the bar from $3,500 on everyone. So that's it. That's what's going on with that. And then I wanted to show you where the book is. This is like the 7th generation or revision of this book. Like, I've been constantly writing and revising, and I'll go and I'll print off a copy every time it's been edited or I revise it, so I can read it in that form. I read it better, and I got to the point on like the 5th revision where I felt like I was almost going backwards on it and making mistakes in the editing and doing more harm than good. And the last one I went through, I thought it was ready for submission, and then I read through it and I didn't like it. So I'm on another revision, but it's been really easy and really light touch, and I'm just cruising right through it, and I'm really, really happy with where it is. So I'm going to get with Gettings, a shout out to Brandon Gettings, who's been helping me every time I need a print run. He helps me convert it to PDF. So the next run I do is going to be as good as I can possibly get it. Won't be edited yet, but what I want is I want to get like 20 copies, and I'll pay for that. That's not another thing I need money for. But I want to start sending it out to people for endorsements or like connections I have, like college professors. And Briscoe was saying he's got something all set up for Seattle Community College, and I can get these books in your hands for people to pass out and see who's interested. Another question I got was about pre-selling these things. One of the problems we have, is if I I could have this book out for distribution tonight if I wanted to. It's got the ISBN and barcode, and that was set up as a secondary plan. If we needed to self-publish and promote it ourselves, we have the capacity to do that. And it'll show up on, Barnes and Nobles and Amazon and all that stuff. The problem with doing that is it makes it really unappealing to literary agents and publishers. And so the way to get it published from that point is you have to prove that it sells well on its own, and you've got to have that chance encounter with the right person. And usually you do that through book fairs, and the vast majority of those are on the East Coast. So I don't want to go that route. I don't want to pre-sell it. It just makes it way tougher of a road for us to go that route. So, for those of you who haven't seen, this next one is, I've always done proofs, like really quick version. They didn't even have page numbers on them. In the table of contents, I didn't list pages because it's going to change with every revision. And with the format and stuff, you can see, like, sometimes it's kind of hard to, like on this one, you'll put the page number way over here, make it look really good. And then you're going to change it every time. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. So I haven't done that. The next one will look really good. So anyways, and keep in mind the history of this. Like, the only way to make it a cohesive kind of a timeline of the deployment, that was based on my journal. That's the only point of reference I have. Otherwise, I've got people's narratives of events they didn't always know the date for. People had a lot of information, but that journal helped because I knew where to put that stuff. Like, I think Carrillo gave me a couple incidents I just couldn't find places for, but that was it. Out of all the interviews and all the people I talked to, I found the home for them in there. And so I was able to embed that in there. And so I almost feel like I have to apologize because some of it's like person-centered, which wasn't the intent, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast. I had to work from my journal. That's what I had. And then I reached out to everybody else for interviews to supplement all that and give the full company story. And I do think I represented that really well. Really well. I think everybody will be happy with the final product. And I'd say in hindsight, one of the things I'd say is it wouldn't have mattered whose journal it was. Like, did some amazing things over there. So, uh, this a lot of the obviously the journal entries are like from my perspective and stuff, but I think it would have looked the same, not the exact same narrative of the story, but it would have been just as good if it was the next guy's journal and stuff, because it was just, it's about the company. It was, everybody did a great job over there. I can't think of anybody that was like, he's a piece of shit. It wouldn't have mattered whose journal it was, as long as there was a time frame for us to gravitate to. So, I don't know. Like, I don't feel great about it being me, but then again, that's what I had. So, anyways, my point to all that is, in order to make this a comprehensive book in the table of contents, I kept it brief. Honestly, even the fucking foreword's really good, and it's got some. That's from Grimes. He wrote that. I had a little poem I wrote about that kind of like highlights what it's like with the madness in our head. And then in the intro, I got, man, it's honestly, it's a great intro. I'm happy to send you all any of this at any point. But there's a great quote from Parker in there that just adds this really kind of, I don't know, this foreboding element to the whole book, and I'm really happy with that part. And then this part, and I get through it really quick, but this is like how I entered the military. I tried out for special forces. I thought that was kind of interesting. I put that in there, and then I got some. Here's why there's a chapter on WLC promotions at other school. That was based on, well, I had it in there. I got a lot of feedback as people read the book, and I leaned heavily on a guy who's an attorney out of LA who reads a ton of this kind of stuff, and really smart guy. And I kind of shaped why would anybody give a fuck about me or this book, and that's kind of just showing the preparations I had going into here. So it's not just like I entered the military, I deployed. These are the things, the trainings I went through, went through, and that's how I'm, that's what the body of expertise I went into this. And then this shit is awesome. Like right off the bat, I've got narratives from, I remember going in the cab, there's some great ones from First Sergeant Gordias, from Lieutenant Demona, getting, re-arrive, and there's already a fucking fatality episode before we've even gotten there. And, what, like, okay, we're getting into some stuff. Coffin had a good narrative in there about some of the challenges, the environmental challenges, they'll say. And it goes through. And I talked to all the platoon sergeants. I got all the critical events in there. I got narratives for them. And I really, on the big ones, I really tried to get a robust set of perspectives on them. And I'll show you in a second anyways. So it goes through the whole deployment. And then it starts evolving into kind of a clinical piece. So the return home, we weren't ready for this. That was something I had said as I'm like fucked up, sobbing in the back of the car, getting a ride home from Joint Base Lewis McChord, like, and that's my perspective. Like, I was not ready for that. And that wasn't because I didn't train hard or anything like that. That, that was my own mental limitation, my own capacity. I did put about Duty Fever when the book had come out, and I'm hoping that we get 2 for the price of 1. So if we could sell more copies of Duty, that's more money for the reunion. And then it gets into some really dark shit. A suicide chapter. Blevins is the feature of that, but a lot of data on suicide. A lot of there was one particular piece of research that had been done exactly on our demographic, and I leaned heavily on that. And like, what are the causes? What are some of the different variables that can factor into the likelihood of someone committing suicide? And I tried to. This is a piece on this read through that I'm paying attention to. I'm not quite sure. It's at least 95% done, but I'm not quite sure I'm exactly where I want with that. What other Hooligans had to say is the chapter on case studies. So I took, Grimes, Villarreal, Logan, those three off the top of my head. Case studies, like their whole kind of like, not their life story, but a condensed, relevant version of who they were prior to the military, why they went, and all that stuff. And then I'm getting a bit more in depth with their personal experience with that. Reunions that we've had and why they're good. And that's one of the big themes of the book is underutilizing the supports we have from the people we deployed with. Moving forward with treatment, that was kind of my, my bread and butter with my license and the impressions I had from that. And then I tried to list everybody I made contact with, where they are now. That would be an important part to be sure everybody's, everybody that has touched this, thought about it, whatever, your name's in there, and you are listed where you are now. Then the appendix, glossary, bibliography, and about the author. One of the things about the glossary, that was one of the big things on this revision, was getting going back through and eliminating some of the explanations within the narratives and stuff, and it reads way better for that. So and then talking to some of the people about editing, they talked about people, when I said that there's videos that accompany this, they were kind of lost on that. Like, how does that work? You can have a DVD disc with that. Those days are done. And so I talked about YouTube links, and they seemed really surprised by that. And they, I don't think they're familiar working with something like that. I think that's what makes this unique and really different. I don't know of any other book that's has, you're basing your interpretations based on what people say, and then there's a bibliography where you can refer to the books, but I don't think they've ever had like a video bibliography where you could refer to the videos and watch people say it, having that. And not everybody I interviewed wanted it recorded, right? But it's there and there's a ton of recorded videos in that. So that's one of the things that makes this really unique and different, is that video piece. And it's going to be interesting to see how literary agents and editors react, or not editors, publishers react to that. One of the things he said is, well, then there's a challenge of getting consent to use that stuff. But the whole point of these videos, people knew it was for the book, so there's already one implied consent. But if I needed a consent form from everybody, I'm sure that would not be a problem to get either. Everybody consented, they knew what it was for. I'm not worried about that. So that, I hope that covers where everything is. That's where the book is at. The next steps, getting that guy to help us get it set up for literary agents / publishers that allow you to submit to them directly. 90% of them do not allow you to do that. You have to go through literary agent. So you got to play the game. And then those of you who want a copy because you feel like this person would be a good endorsement, or this person might invite us on their, podcast, or like Briscoe, have us come to the college and talk. Let me know. And then the other thing I really want to emphasize was, this is ours. So when this is published, if you wanted to, set up something with your local college and have some of the vets, like you don't need to consult with me. You don't need permission. This is ours. And if you all can, don't do anything illegal, because I'm sure we're going to be tied to some kind of contract and stuff, and I'll be transparent with that. But if you can make money from it or whatever, I don't care. So if someone wants to pay you to talk about this, take it. If you want to go and represent yourself as hooligans and go and do whatever, anything from a TED Talk to whatever, go ahead. I'm not keeping a leash on this thing. And the more people that get out there and talk about it, the more people that'll know. And at the end of the day, I want people to know about Hooligans. I don't give a shit about who wrote it or anything like that. And when Return to Dust, hopefully it would be pretty awesome if people knew a 20-second ECC. Maybe it's at the bottom of the poll, but in the same breath of like 101st and 82nd first cab, and then there's 20-second ECC. So that's everything I can think of. I know that was long, 20 minutes, but hopefully that answers a lot of questions.